Impact of Influence.
Covering true crime throughout the Southeast.
Hello, friend. Matt Harris and Seton Tucker here. Thank you for being here. So grateful that you've hung with us all this time. And we're going to talk about the time that's gone by since we started the podcast and since the tragedies of the deaths of Maggie and Paul. I want to remind you, part of the Evergreen Podcast Company. Would love it if you would support our sponsors and hit up the Impact of Influence Facebook page where you can get to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Those numbers are growing, so we can continue to do the YouTube channel. But a few more subscribers certainly would help. So thank you for those who have done it. And thank you ahead of time for those who are about to do it. But talking about Facebook kind of leads us into one of the reasons we decided to do the episode we did, or we're about to do, is because of the response on Facebook to something you posted.
Yeah, so June 7th marked the 4-year anniversary of the tragic deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. Now, on the anniversary of their death, I did a post on our Facebook page with a picture of Maggie and Paul's graves saying, "Rest in peace, Maggie and Paul." And I think we got over close to 80,000 views on that post.
Crazy, yeah.
And just a ton of engagement, lots of comments. So obviously, the story is still resonating with people.
Well, I mean, if you think about how huge it was nationally, let alone in the Low Country or South Carolina or this region, and it was interesting how the comments ranged in either emotion or asking questions or facts. So walk us through some of those.
Okay. I want to say, I think maybe one reason why this is still in people's minds is we have this appeal.
Oh, that's right. The appeal through the South Carolina State Supreme Court, the state had asked for a 6-month extension. It was supposed to come up a while back, but they wanted a 6-month extension. So by the end of the year, it should be heard. That's
my understanding. If all goes as planned, we will hear oral arguments in front of the South Carolina Supreme Court. We won't be able to attend those because it's a small room. That's what my understanding, but we should be able to see that online.
So they do broadcast the South Carolina State Supreme Court.
They do appeal, yes.
So okay, that'll be very interesting, and we don't know all of the arguments that are going to be made. So it'd be I think it's going to be very interesting.
I think it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it'll be as long as you maybe anticipate. It's not like a regular trial.
Yeah.
I think that ahead of time it will kind of be determined which issues that the Supreme Court is still considering.
Yeah.
And I think it's very short time. Like they'll have 20 minutes to present their case and the other case. I watched the Lafitte Circuit Court hearing. That was a federal case, but it was really interesting to hear the judges would, each side kind of presented their side, and then the judges had the opportunity to ask questions that they had.
Right. So that will happen probably by the end of the year. So walk us through some of the comments. I know the headstones struck a chord with some people.
Yeah, a lot of people commented that they were really happy that there were finally headstones for Maggie and Paul. Previously, there were like those little markers that they put right after someone is buried. Mm-hmm. Someone commented that they weren't there because they were cremated and that the ashes are actually with Maggie's sister. I don't know if that's true or not.
And where would Paul's be? Right.
I guess both sets were with Maggie's sister. But again, this is a Facebook. This is a Facebook thing. But even if sometimes people don't recover a body, and you still have a headstone for someone.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
and I'm sure these plots were bought ahead of time.
Right, and it's a place for friends and family to go and remember that person.
I would imagine there's other generations of Murdaughs around there. Okay, so yeah, that we'll try to find out what the situation is with the ashes and whatnot. You also said there was a comment about Maggie's name and how it was.
Right. Somebody said that they would, if it was them, they would have preferred not to have Murdoch on their headstone, that they would have preferred their maiden name. And in Maggie's case, Brandsetter. I don't know how Maggie would have felt about it, but I can see both sides.
But she's been a Murdoch more than half her life, probably.
Right, and she has children who share the same last name.
Right, Yeah, one that's a living son.
But I couldn't see that. They said that someone else commented that Lacey Peterson's family did not use Peterson on her headstone.
Again, I would say that she wasn't a Peterson for very long.
Yeah,
Right.
and in case you don't know that case, I think most people do. That was what the pregnant woman who was murdered by her.
Scott Peterson was convicted of the murder. Yes.
Yeah.
Around Christmas.
Yeah, and
he
she
had an
was. There was
affair
big
and-
news because she was really pregnant, and people were like, "Did something happen to this pregnant woman?" So it
A lot
was
of
a big
documentaries
story
about that to check
Yes,
out.
yes, they're really interesting stuff. A lot of people really are still mad at Paul for the death of Mallory Beach. Some people seem really angry about this.
I don't want you to at me about this, but yes, you can be angry at Paul for sure. Even if he had been convicted, he wouldn't have gotten the death penalty, right? And he's dead. And even some of the people on that boat have forgiven him in the documentary.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not telling you need to forgive or not forgive, but I don't know if how his life ended is fair. If you, because you like it that sort of
I
thing.
don't think you can say that's fair. But I thought a comment from April was a good one. We had some comments like this. Do you want to read that one?
Let's see.
I wouldn't say.
I wouldn't say mother protecting her child makes her a bad person. Paul didn't intentionally hurt Mallory. It was an accident. You all act like he did it on purpose. Young people make mistakes. Parents often try to protect their kids while the cover-up was distasteful. You've got to stop acting like Paul did it on purpose. Everyone on that boat was drinking. They weren't bad people at all, just rich, privileged, and Paul was ignorant at times, but not a bad person.
There was
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had a family member of Mallory Beach comment, and actually he visits the same grave to visit other family members who are in the same cemetery as Maggie and Paul, but then he goes to another one which is on Sandy Run Road. I think they might both be on Sandy Run Road, but don't quote me if I'm wrong on that. And he goes and sees her every time he's in the area. He lives in the upstate of South Carolina at this point.
Yeah, it's a tragedy all around, for sure. It's hard to not imagine the anger that the Beach family's feeling. I could totally empathize with that. There's just, the worst.
It was a terrible, terrible accident.
Yes.
And you did see during the trial, I felt like, you saw a different side of Paul. There just seemed like when Paul was out of hand drinking, that was one thing. But then many friends who testified at Alex murder trial spoke very highly of Paul and that he was the guy that they would call when there was a situation they needed help with.
The people went on the boat, liked him
right.
to some degree, or they wouldn't have gotten a boat with him.
Was taking care of his friend's dog.
Yeah. And, he might have been spoiled or acting badly. Doesn't necessarily equal getting shot and killed by your dad. Mm-hmm. So there's that little controversial take, but there you go. Brandy says, I hope Paul and Maggie visit Alex in his dreams, just like Judge Newman said. Yeah, that's fair.
Well, yeah, totally.
To haunt him.
There was some debate though about whether people found Alex Murdaugh guilty. Several folks commented that they thought that he was a scoundrel, but not necessarily a murderer. We also have Wesley Donahue, who was the knife fighter hired by Parker's Kitchen in the aftermath of the boating accident to do some PR. Now, they had a messy breakup. I don't think Donahue and Parker really are on good terms. We still have this outstanding outrage case. But anyway, he posted on Twitter that he didn't think Alex did it.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can
so
see
there are people who think that for sure.
But he was convicted of it, so at this point he's guilty of it. But yes, there are people who think that he had a hand in it in some way, but he didn't do it.
Now, personally, I was glad to have this reminder when I saw the picture of their graves. I think it was posted originally on Fitz News, just because I do think sometimes the victims get lost in all this other nonsense.
Of course, yeah. I mean, even the victims of and they're alive, but that Alec ripped off.
Yeah. Well, and his son Buster, who lost both of his parents, and now his dad's in jail. I mean, for life. He's a victim as well. He did marry his long-term girlfriend Brooklyn, who we saw many days attending. I think she attended all the days.
Yeah, pretty much
with Buster. I saw some pictures online. They looked very happy. It looked like a beautiful day. So,
they've been through a lot together.
They have. So, and a lot of people couldn't, stick through something like that.
And so congratulations if you're listening, Buster. Somebody passed that along.
I doubt they're listening, but best wishes to
somebody
them.
can tell them.
Yes.
Let's see. What else do we want to hit on here?
Well, the 4-year anniversary of our podcast.
Yes, that's a big one, I guess. Yeah.
We released our first episode on June 22nd of 2020.
Jeez.
2021.
And we tried to do it sooner.
We tried. Well, I know. Like let's tell the story of how we started. I know maybe long-term listeners know, but if in case you're new to the podcast.
So, Seton and I have known each other in similar group, same neighborhood, that sort of thing. And you were out, I think it was a friend's going away party maybe or something, or birthday party, something like that.
It was a birthday dinner celebration. And I was telling them about the story. It was I think either the day or the day after
it might have been the day of,
Maggie and Paul were killed. And I was like, I've been wanting to do this true crime podcast. Actually, before COVID had been really diving into this boating accident and reading everything I could read from media, but also, checking out Reddit. And
so you were on top of the Mallory Beach
thing. Right.
You have connections. You grew up in Hilton Head.
I contacted a friend back then who had been to film school and had recently moved back to the Low Country and was selling real estate. And he said, no, I can't. I'll help you behind the scenes, but I don't really want to get involved in this. And I had reached out to Sandy Smith and spoken with her, and I really kind of wanted to do it. And then COVID hit, and I have 3 kids at home, and I just kind of dropped the ball on it. So then when Maggie and Paul were murdered, I was like, oh my gosh, I've missed the boat. How am I going to do this? I had no idea how to run a podcast. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 19 years or something. I was like... And we all know I'm not very good with technology. So I was like, I was talking to him. It's like, well, Matt Harris has always been wanting to do a true crime podcast.
Yeah.
And I've known you for years, but I never knew you had an interest in true crime.
Right. So that was a weird connection. And I think we met the very next day.
Yeah, we met at Starbucks, and I talked your ear off, and we were like, there were so many. You kept using the words tentacle. This story has a lot of tentacles. I think we can do this. And at that time, we didn't even know the amount of tentacles that there would be.
Right. No idea.
So we went over to just a little studio, and we tried to do it ourselves. And a lot of the early criticism was said you talked over me, because I really tried to talk as little. Now I talk too much, but I was really trying to not talk a lot.
Yeah.
And I would just give you this deer in headlights
yes.
And you're like, I gotta jump in.
I gotta jump because I've done radio and TV for whatever, and the dead air is a thing. So when I would see you kind of have that pause, I would jump in, and people thought I was interrupting, but it was more like I was helping you fill in your thought or whatever, because you just were stunned there for a second.
And also
you were new at this,
right? We're writing episodes, and the story was moving so fast, and and then I learned I couldn't read. I would get so nervous. I think I have reading anxiety. That's why I make Matt read everything.
Because we try to do it ourselves in the studio, because I thought when we went in that studio, they would have somebody to help us, but they just dropped us off in a room, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
We don't know,
here.
and we did it. It was So then we found Dwayne.
Yes, because Dwayne was a producer then, so I had talked to him probably a year before, just out of Quince, and he has a tiny home that he rents.
Yeah.
And somebody who rented it, and I was talking to him. I'm like, you do music, but would you ever think about producing a podcast? And he was like, yeah, I definitely could figure that out. I'd be into that. And so things just kind of and I called him, and let's get out there and do it. And I had been overthinking doing a true crime podcast. You were kind of overthinking the Mallory Beach stuff before that. So we just decided, let's go in there and just start yammering, but be prepared. And let's see how it all shakes out.
And it was so fast moving, but I was also at the time, I think, much more of a perfectionist, but I've moved to the different angle. I'm like, now I think people like not perfect. At that time, I was like trying to read everything, make everything like really this produced thing, which is really not us. We're more conversational. But I just, how many times did we were like, I would get home and be like, that was terrible. We have to go back in.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, that would happen, yes.
We had to do that a lot.
And I would analyze it, but I was still doing the morning show, going through a wacky divorce. And so I had all this stuff going on. And I think that helped me not super analyze everything we said.
I was like obsessed. I think this whole podcast took years off my life because people was really like trolling at the beginning. There was
trolling.
Like trolling, like really the amount of meanness online. But now I really don't like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you could say something that would affect me, or if you say something against my kids, for sure that would affect me. But now for the most part, I just let it roll off my back.
There were so many times that you were going to quit.
I was like, I'm quitting. I cannot do this anymore.
You and your husband, Len.
I mean, when
Dwayne,
I was accused of writing letters from a dead brother, that's what really sent me over the edge.
That is, I've said I just did an interview recently about my career or whatever, and I've done radio and TV for hundreds of years. I'm not that old, but I've never seen the infighting that went on. Okay, it was just between a couple people, but
I see it
everybody
now.
got along.
But you know what? Now I see it so much, and because I was following this Karen Reed case, and there are really two camps in this too. Like people really believe she's innocent. People really, and I see that is kind of a direction I think true crime is going, especially online.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, you can't take it too seriously. Some of the comments, but it is kind of interesting to gauge the pulse. I'd love to do an episode on how the online stuff affects these really high profile cases. I think that's something I'm really interested in.
It will get personal to you, and they didn't come to me as much for whatever reason.
I don't know.
They could get in your head.
They probably, but I would not have survived the last 4 years without my family and you, Matt, and Dwayne. Y'all talked me off the ledge many times.
So we are appreciative of all of the listeners because the listens were multi-million, 10, 12 million or whatever it was. And I did the Court TV thing a bunch.
I know. Well, and remember we did that Oxygen documentary right off the bat. We did early, and you were on Court TV all the time, and I did the Fox News thing. I mean, it's interesting because I'm kind of a shy person, and I don't really like public speaking, so I don't know how I got into this mess.
It was like I can't even tell you how grateful we are that you guys stuck with us. And as you talked about, I think there was a con and a pro of the fact that we tried not to take a super side on anything.
No, but then you're nobody's friend.
Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly. We were in the bank for the Murdochs, or we were
people were hired by Parkers, or any of these things. Like we really tried to just present the information that we have, but that sometimes can be inherently biased. I think was it Troy Roberts who did the Oxygen special? Yeah, pointed that out to me. It's like you kind of you want to present all the information, but the information you're choosing to present also can be biased in some way. Right. When you're presenting things, sometimes it's a legal thing versus what we think. So if you're just presenting a legal thing. Well, and we also said we early on, started bringing on lots of experts because we're experts in nothing, and that seemed to be our jam. We're more conversational. But, I listened to the trailer this morning, and it wasn't our original trailer. I think we listened to our original trailer right before we were about to do the Oxygen thing, and we were like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. So we redid it. But what was interesting about the trailer is at that time, we did not know the extent of the financial crimes. In the trailer, we talk about there was $500,000 missing from Gloria Satterfield's insurance settlement. She was the maid who passed away. But we didn't know it wasn't just $500,000. There were millions of dollars. Yes. And we didn't know that at the time. And then we fast forward and just how fast it was moving. We're still learning and doing all the stuff. Then just a few months later, there's this roadside shooting. Labor Day weekend. And, then there was an arrest of Eddie Smith, who was Alex's cousin or
some sort of drug
friend. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember being out of the country when this happened.
Now
I was
you
on
mention
my
it.
I was on my 50th birthday trip.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just remember like the whole world was breaking. I was like, what is happening? This
Yes.
like when we thought it was already so crazy, then it really got crazy.
It did. And there was so many rumors and things that were being sent to us that we had to sort through that were, now looking at like some were way out there. Some of the theories.
But we would really try to look and take them all
Yeah.
seriously, but we couldn't. I mean, at that time, it was impossible to respond to everything because we were getting, and it still kind of is
Yeah.
at times. And then let's talk about our guests. We had Eric Bland on in September of 2021. I think this is before he became a big famous podcaster himself.
Yes.
But who were your favorite guests?
And Blaine, by the way, I get along with him. He's an Eagles guy, and we text back and forth. And we've been on Court TV doing some battles here and there, but we've always gotten along well. One of the guests that was able to speak about his father being a murderer, that.
Oh, Landry Collier.
Yes.
Collier, yes. That was a crazy episode.
Great story.
I thought you were going to say the lady who developed the criminal profiling system with the FBI.
Oh, that was a good one too. She was the original mind hunter from the series.
I just felt like it was really big scores. I thought it speaks to kind of covering both sides. We had Creighton Waters, Jim Griffin, and now just recently, Dick Harpootlian.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we kind of got a lot of people, and it was so weird. At the beginning, I was so nervous to contact people because I'd be like, there's no way that they're going to come on our podcast.
Yeah.
And then they did.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
mean, we got no's for sure, but
Yes. And it was interesting that they would come on and they would share their side of it and their things that they had learned through their experiences that we couldn't possibly know.
I just love, like, I always go back to, at the beginning there was so much debate about Murdoch, how
that
how
stuff
it was
too,
pronounced,
yeah.
and like we had that linguist on. I think I just love to learn, and I felt like we have learned so much through all of these experts that we've had. I mean, we had a gun guy. We had
Right. We had medical examiners on, coroners on. There was a guy.
a million lawyers. Lawyers are the first to say yes.
Yes. The lawyers are on it.
They are not shy.
It was, and it just made us realize that was how we wanted, we wanted to do it for sure, was bring in people and have them really be the experts on it. But through that, we learned a lot, and hopefully you guys did too from listening.
Other cases. So we haven't just covered Murdoch. I think Shanquilla Robinson was the first one we covered after, and unfortunately, there's really not been a lot of movement on that. That was the young woman from Charlotte who died in Mexico.
Yeah, was on a trip with some people, ends up dead, and all kinds of controversy surrounding that. The Rose Petal murders was interesting in Greenville. You went.
And I just realized I really enjoy attending trials. I find it so interesting. This might be my retirement plan.
Yeah, there you go. And also there was another one we had both sides on. We had the defense attorneys and the prosecutor.
Yes, we had Walt Wilkins, who is the solicitor in Greenville County, and Andy Mormon.
Yeah.
Who represented Zachary Hughes.
Yes, and that was a amazingly weird case.
Yeah, Kate. Well, but we've covered some kind of older ones too, like Katie Major. That was a really sad one. That was the pregnant woman who was found dead next to some railroad truck, and it was ruled. I don't know if it was accidental or.
The basic idea was that she was hit by the train.
That she was hit by the train, and there were questions about exactly what happened. That was just I spent a lot of time with her mom on the phone, and that was just a really heartbreaking when you lose a child, especially a child who is also pregnant with your grandchild.
The Scott Spivey case, we're doing that now too.
Yes, and we have lots of reactions to that.
Yeah,
because this is another one that we are like on both sides, because
you see a little bit of each.
Yeah. So I want to.
But I do want to, before you get to that, like talking about both sides, or the guests that we've had, almost all the big players involved in the Murdoch case, as far as reports, like Valerie Berline from the Wall Street Journal, Michael DeWitt, who was covering it for the USA Today. We had some of the TV guys from down there. Riley was on.
Andrew Davis.
We got along with all those people that were reporting on it. There was and they were always willing to share information with us about this stuff. Pretty Lies and Alibis, and we get along with all these guys.
Fitz News.
Fitz News. Yes.
No, I felt like it was really kind of a press corps. There was some reaction. We put that on our Facebook too about there was a picture that was taken of a party that we attended. I think you had left.
I had left before the picture.
You left because you had an appearance on Court TV.
Yeah.
But it was kind of crazy that I guess the intention was like we were all in cahoots together because Becky Hill was at this party.
Right.
But the crazy thing is no one knew what Becky Hill was up to at that time. And I would say, I know personally, you too, we were burning the candle at all ends. That was like I think we went to two things the entire time because I was staying in Charleston because I could stay for free.
But that's a hike.
I was driving back and forth, waking up at 6, driving back and forth. Then I would get home and, try to write a podcast. I don't know what those podcasts sound like because I didn't listen to any of them. We try to write a podcast and try to get that done before you're going to be on Court TV at 9.
Yeah. And then
it was crazy.
I drive to Walterboro to Charlotte.
And you were driving like in the middle of the night.
Yes,
I mean, it was crazy.
sleeping.
And I was scared for you because you can hit a deer.
I know. Yeah, it was like, a little treacherous out there.
It was crazy.
Okay, so to the Spivey thing, Scott Spivey, the reactions.
Yes. So we've had a lot of comments about the pursuit and Boyd's 911 call. Some were saying they believe that shows Boyd's intention to kind of hunt Spivey. We also had a comment, which was kind of different, said that we are not following patterns of other podcasters by not posting 911 calls, dash cams. But I didn't really buy that because I was like, I'm not really sure that she listened. I did ask her, but she didn't respond to that. We played.
Did you say we're not playing them? Or we are?
Yeah, like we're not presenting all the information, I think was the implication. But we played Boyd's call and we also played two others. I think there was maybe some other 911 calls that I did listen to, but those were really short. Like maybe they saw a gun, but they didn't really have. We played the ones that had the most information.
Right.
But not selective. And again, I don't know where this is going to land legally. We want to let our listeners listen to all this. Bring my dad on to get some legal expertise on this, and let people decide for themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
But anyway.
There's what was the listener about? The Boyd dash cam.
Oh, well, that's the thing is, the listener, was pointing out that we haven't played all these things. I'm like, if we had been able to see Boyd's dash cam, which I think was in existence at some time, that could either corroborate or not Boyd's.
Whether he was behind him the whole time or whether he went in front of him.
And there's two things. There could have also been, obviously we've got several officers with the Horry County Police Department who are under investigation, but, there could have been police not doing their jobs properly, but then it could also be that Boyd was within his rights.
Both could be true.
Both of those things can absolutely be true. And it can be true that Boyd made some really bad comments that are not, being excited about killing someone, those type of things.
Didn't seem, at least from what we heard, there was no remorse.
There did not appear to be remorse. I don't know how that is legally, but it might be. He was legally within his rights, and he made some really, I don't know if jerky is the right word, but, Yeah,
I mean, we talked about this before, and my brother commented listening to this, that none of the 911 operators were like, just leave it alone.
Right.
Of the 3 calls, not once did the operators say, well, you just leave or let him go, cops will be there. Like,
right.
It didn't seem, which was weird to all of us, that they didn't say to Boyd or to the woman who was really hysterical, well, just back off, let them go. The police are on their way.
No, I don't know
what the process, what they're supposed to do, but that doesn't seem right.
Really crazy. And in Boyd's mind, he might have been thinking he was doing a public service. that same person actually commented that she felt like the Spivey family, it's turned into a money game for them.
Well, it's hard to say on motivation because of someone being in deep pain.
But they don't have any other recourse.
Right.
The AG's office says they're not pursuing charges against Boyd. This is really the only avenue that they could take. And if you ask them, would they rather get money or have their family member back? Guarantee you they're going to say they'd rather have Scott back.
Right. And let's not forget that we all have to agree that Scott's made some bad decisions in this whole thing too.
No, and she pointed that out, that you know he had been drinking, or maybe had some past legal stuff. It doesn't matter.
He doesn't deserve. Well, I don't know legally, but morally he doesn't.
Well, there's moral and legal, and
it's up to you.
I don't know. It's up to you. I don't want to opine on that.
I think I am in kind of the moral thing that I tell my kids or everybody else is you just back off. There's no reason for road rage. Just don't.
Well, I don't know that that's again, Spivey could have, or not, Boyd could have been thinking that he was doing a public service that by following him.
Yeah, perhaps.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not following. I'm not following.
No, I told I had the conversation with my boys. If you see somebody driving erratically, especially if you see them driving erratically with a gun, the best thing that you could possibly do is pull over
or call 911.
And we don't have guns in our car because,
you got kids.
I have kids.
You don't want them anywhere near.
Not anti-gun. Everybody do what they want. It's just not right for me personally, because I would probably go off accidentally and something bad would happen. So it's not for me.
There was a correction, was there?
Oh yeah, I think when we were talking to my dad, we were talking about some of this possible police. What's the word? Blanking on my word.
Oh, like police not doing their job?
Yeah.
Bad investigating? Or
right. Like
misconduct?
Misconduct. Yes, that's what I was looking for. We were talking about notes being passed to Boyd from officers. And I think I said to my dad something like, act scared. But someone pointed out that it wasn't act scared, that it said act like a victim.
On the note.
But it's not kind of same sentiment. I don't think that would change actually what my dad said, but we do strive for accuracy. So, please, we thank you for pointing that out.
The hearing is coming up.
Yeah, I think sometime this month there's going to be a hearing to determine if the civil case can go forward based on stand your ground law. So we will definitely keep you posted.
And we're going to be doing some more speaking. Please show up. We don't want to be like the... where are we going to be? What are we doing?
We are going to be speaking at the New Hanover Library on June 26th.
All the details will be on the Impact of Influence Facebook page.
And that's in Wilmington.
Oh, Wilmington.
North Carolina. So if you're in the area, we would love for you to come out and meet some people. Hopefully it won't just be us. It could be though, in which case.
Yeah. Well, we'll find.
Who knows what we'll talk about.
I'll buy somebody a beer afterwards. Get somebody off the beach. Come on and hang out with us. So we'll have all the information in the Impact of Influence Facebook page, as I said. You can also go to the YouTube channel from there. Please subscribe. Trying to get that up and rolling. Need to hit a number of subscribers to be able to do any kind of monetization.
It is growing. It's just building slowly.
Yes. Anything else there, lady?
That's it.
Okay. It's Matt Harris, Seton Tucker, and as always, super grateful friend.